what's your take on Darwin's Origin of Species?
Evolution is a fundamental process. Evolution happens everywhere with everything. There are various criteria that determine what's profitable in any evolutionary system. We talked about in consciousness, it's lowering entropy. In the physical reality among critters, it's procreation and survival. You know, that's the survival of the fittest sort of thing. You have to procreate and survive, otherwise your genes don't get passed on and you don't become part of the future. So evolution is fundamental in the sense that, economic systems evolve, governments evolve, everything evolves. Everything that is large, complex, changes and is self-modifying. Well, governments are self-modifying. They evolve. So evolution is just a natural thing. So sure, this evolved. You started with the big digital bang, remember? And that ran the simulation, and the simulation got to a place like Earth, and Earth got to a place where amino acids could come together and make a cell, and then the cells evolved and so on. So that's part of the rule set. The rule set says all that was probable to happen, so it does. And in order for the critters to move on, they have to survive, they have to procreate, because that's according to the rule set, what makes them viable. So yes, all of that is the case. I think Darwin has a very good theory there. That's the way things do work. And survival of the fittest basically says that it's not everybody doesn't have to kill everybody else that disagrees with them. That's not survival of the fittest. It's basically procreation. You have to forward your genes, and you have to survive in order to do that. So that's just the criteria upon which physical evolution is based. If you can do those two things, then you evolve. If you can't do those two things, you don't evolve. You eventually become extinct. So.
Could it be to leave memory or database of information within genes? And I've heard one theory that is the purpose of viruses in meteors and viruses on the Earth plane, to leave hereditary informational data streams.
Well, some of our information, we are information, and some of the information in our physical reality is embedded. It's not all data in the consciousness. Some of our information is genetic. That's true, and that defines our physical systems. But that genetic information is more flexible than most of us think. The idea that you would get from Darwin is that in a million years or so you could change your species. But individuals change their genetics daily, monthly. You can change your genetic makeup because mind leads, body follows. You change your brain, you can change your genetic makeup within limits. You're probably not going to grow a second head. You're not going to change it that much. But you will change your genetic makeups slightly. And that will then get passed on to your future generations to come through you. But yeah, we do change. We talk about memory. All our memory is not this. Some of our memory is cellular and genetic. Yes.
So we could adapt to be different anatomically, and in terms of chakra, the energies could increase.
Yeah, we're very adaptable. Certainly, we're very adaptable. That's how that's how profitability gets measured in evolution. There has to be some scale of profitability, and if you can adapt and you change, and again, it's done individually. It doesn't have to be done over a million years. It's done with each individual, and those changes are kind of happenstance and random here and there. But eventually, if it's survival, if it increases your physical survival according to the rule set, then that goes on, and the stuff that doesn't. You have to see it as this is a virtual reality, and it's marching forward by a rule set. So you're basically working out all the permutations and combinations and possibilities of the rule set, and some of those are more viable than others, and that's what we call evolution.
Is the end goal to reach centropy and equilibrium, or in terms of maths, reach this logarithmic one?
Yeah, I don't know that there is an end goal. I think it's just a system that continues on. It doesn't necessarily have an end goal. It just, it is what it is. It changes, it grows, it has choices, it makes those choices. It fills out the probabilities. The ones that work go on, the ones that don't die, and it's an open-ended system. This reality, and the way this reality chugs along according to the rule set's an open-ended system. And based on the decisions that get made, depending on, whether a volcano erupts and, shields the sun for a year or whatever things happen, then we adjust, everything changes, the criteria change, and we deal with it and go on. So I think it's an open-ended system. I don't really think there's a point that we're supposed to end up at a certain time. But we're all headed toward whatever the criteria are that define evolution. And sometimes in the physical, with the rule set, those criteria change. Like the meteor strikes, the dust goes up, there's no sunshine for a decade. Well, suddenly the rule set changed down here on what the criteria were. Now being big and powerful and able to eat everything else doesn't help, because all the plants die and everything else dies. So dinosaurs were really very survivable in their day, and then their day passed. They were no longer survivable because the criteria for survival changed. They got caught.